Washington, New York Islanders, 5-6 on the rotation. We've got Washington minus 140 to minus 145. Total 6 shaded to the over here, about minus 120 in this hockey game, as you'd expect. The Islander games continue to be a little bit taxed towards the over, even though they've not quite been that over machine they were earlier this season when they were just flying over the total, it seems, hand over fist, night after night. It was just one high-scoring game for the Islanders after another. It has calmed down just a little bit in recent games. Washington Capitals off 2 straight wins. They've wrapped up their West Coast road trip on the weekend with a 2-0 shutout win against the San Jose Sharks. Followed that up, returning home with a 3-2 win against Winnipeg. So Washington trying to show that they can get on a little bit of a roll here as the season winds down. The New York Islanders, on the other hand, a 5-2 win against the Calgary Flames the other night, a game in which they were outshot 52-27. But suddenly the New York Islanders have found a guy that's apparently able to, at least for the current moment in time, just stand on his head on a nightly basis, and that's Christopher Gibson. He's a guy that's just recently been brought up to this organization. Halak and Grice have had their issues. Of course, the defense has been miserable, hasn't helped them out one iota. I understand that, but at the same time, the goaltending still hasn't been fantastic. Still, you'd like to see it be better. And Gibson's come in and been very, very good, actually, for this New York Islanders team since he's been in there and gotten the starts. He's given them a chance on most nights. Problem is, the offense has started to slow down just a bit for the New York Islanders. That 5-goal outburst was a rarity for them. Prior to that, they had scored 3 goals or less in 9 straight games. So not quite that potent, clicking offense that we've seen earlier this season. Islanders also, when you look at it, still dealing with a couple injuries as well. We know Grice out, which is why it's Halak and Gibson, although lately it's been Gibson getting most of the starts for this New York Islanders team. Now they return home off a 4-game road trip. And when you go back and look now, they were at last 10 games at Carolina, home to Minnesota, at Toronto, at New Jersey, at Montreal, home to Montreal, at Pittsburgh, at Vancouver, at Edmonton, at Calgary, now back home. What does that mean? That means they've had 10 straight games where they've had to travel between games. You know, they've had a venue change, a city change. That's a lot of travel over a 10-game period of time. So not exactly something I'm thrilled to see. This is a little steep for me to lay with Washington. It's my lean. To me, I'm not in love with this Washington Capitals team still, but I'd still prefer that side personally over the New York Islanders tonight if I were to bet that game. Dana Lane, Washington, New York Islanders. This game has made it onto your card tonight. What do you see happening here in Brooklyn?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting in the postseason because this is obviously a Capitals team that nobody thought was going to be a team that you would have to fear this season. Of course, they won the President's Trophy last year and were dismissed by the Pittsburgh Penguins, and everybody thought, well, this is going to be the year where they're not only not going to win the President's Trophy, but which they probably won't, but we might not have to worry about they even making the playoffs. Well, they're going to make the playoffs, and not only are they going to do that, perhaps this is a different way just to go into the postseason where everybody has their guard down instead of their guard up, and they're still as offensively efficient as anybody in the National Hockey League, and that doesn't mean dangerous because there's a complete difference between them being dangerous and efficient, and all we have to do is look on their shots on net. And I think if you told the average fan that the Washington Capitals were last in the National Hockey League in shots on goal, I think they'd look at you a little bit funny, but yet that's exactly where they're at. But offensively, they're in the upper half of the league. So that means that they are methodical in the way that they and when they get their chances they bury them, but they are not just shooting pucks to the net, and that's a lot different than the Washington Capital team that we've seen of the last 2 seasons, where basically the MO was get the puck to the net and get some greasy goals in front, and get Ovechkin over to the left slot area and let him rip it. I mean, that was basically their offense. So a little bit different this year, but they're still by far a very dangerous team. And in fact, they are starting to get some production from their blue line. John Carlson is getting some goals, so that's always good. I mean, we see a lot of really good teams that get no production from their blue line, and Washington's really not one of those teams. And if they come up to bite somebody in the postseason, I think it's going to be because people just don't take them as seriously as they had in the past. I don't think there's much suspense, whether or not the Islanders are going to make the playoffs, obviously. But I don't think that this team has quit. There's a lot of guys that are being evaluated for next season, and that includes Gar Snow and Doug Waite. I mean, these are guys that may not be around next season. I know there's a big push to get Gar Snow out. There has been for a while. So we'll see what happens after the postseason or after the end of the season. And maybe, with the John Tavares issue coming up and his contract and getting him to sign, maybe Gar Snow staying or leaving has a huge impact on his decision. This Islander team is obviously the worst offensive team in the league. Yes, they've slowed down or a defensive team in the league, but yes, they've slowed down offensively. But I still see three lines there that I can still feel good about, that even though they're not going well right now, that they will eventually. So I still think that I can get offense from them. And in many ways, anytime the Islanders are involved, it's just an automatic overlook in most cases for me. And certainly when you get both teams that are going to create a pace of play that is going to lend itself to the over way more than itself to the under. So I'm going to go Washington and the Islanders over 6 minus $1.15.
All right, over 6 for Dana with the Capitals and the Islanders, and they did get over the total their last game. Which, what's their current last 10 games? Let me see. Okay, they're 5-5, or 50% over under. So yeah, it's slowed down a bit, but you're still getting some overs. You're getting a nice mix now. You're not instead of before. So over 6 minus 120. Washington, New York Islanders for Dana. His play with the Capitals taking on the Islanders.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.